All right, brothers, you can start.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Wake Up family. Good morning, Facebook family. I hope everybody is well. As the numbers go up, it's still so incredible to me that everybody's so consistent and being in the space and creating platforms for people to engage in and growth. So day 649 is upon us. Today we'll be talking about partnership and our roles and how they are, beginning to change as we move into time. It's gonna be myself and Andre Nelson. Dre.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Tracy Ann. Welcome. And yeah, thank you.
Good morning, Troy. How you doing this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning. Doing well this morning. How are y'all doing? How's the energy?
I'm good. What's up, Omari?
What's going on? How you feeling, brother?
Every day is a good day.
All right.
Good. It is a good day, and it's a good day to talk about this topic, actually, because like Omari mentioned, we're heading into times where things are changing, and we got to adapt to the time. So if we want to hear the stories, we want to share our stories and hear your stories. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, Chantel. Good morning. And Rachel, good morning.
Morning.
You want to jump right into it, Dre?
Not yet. Y'all, we have to do the
Oh,
open.
we gotta wait for the song.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
excited.
You love the excitement.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
Good morning. Welcome. Who else do we have on? Tia, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Guys, tell everybody where you are. We'll make an assumption.
Where are you, Omari?
I am in Brooklyn, New York. New York had an excellent weekend though for my first time in Martha's Vineyard. It was super, super dope. Met amazing people. The atmosphere was great. The food was great. The island was dope. It was at a really eye-opening, awesome experience.
I'll tell you what, I'll share out real quickly. I'm from Connecticut. I live in Fairfield, Connecticut, from New York, and right now I'm in Florida with my family for vacation. But to your point about Martha's Vineyard, I think in August it's like Black people time in Martha's Vineyard, and it is one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever experienced. Just being around all beautiful Black people that have a wonderful energy in a place that historically has always had Black people there, which I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I would definitely suggest for all our Facebook family and Zoom family, in August, anytime you have a chance, if you can, go out to Martha's Vineyard for a few days in August, any time of the month, and you'll encounter some of the most beautiful Black people there that you didn't know would be in Martha's Vineyard. So just a quick shout out for Martha's Vineyard.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you, brothers.
Yep.
Did you say Stan? Did you say Stamford, Connecticut?
Sorry about that. Can everyone mute?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Stay woke. Stay woke. Stay woke. It's time to get up. Stay woke. Stay woke. Stay woke. It's time to get up. We're healing, we're dealing, we're growing. Together, releasing. We're teaching, we're moving. Together, together, we're learning, discerning, we're striving. Together, together, we're leading, connecting, transforming. Together, together.
All righty.
All right, now we can jump right into it.
Did we have one more intro slide?
No, you're good to go.
Oh, okay, cool. You want to start us off, Omari? Do you want me?
Yeah, please start us off, Dre. I appreciate it.
Okay, so we're here this morning. We want to talk about partnerships. When we talk about partnerships, we're talking about relationships. How do we show up, and what is my role? I think this is an important topic because, you know, especially as a man, I think traditionally our roles have changed. Our roles used to be one thing. Society told us we need to, you know, take out the trash, do the manly thing, and make all the money, and all kinds of things that, you know, were stereotyped to our gender. But I think that, you know, over time we've had to look at ourselves, look at, you know, our relationships, look at our roles, and say, what has influenced us, and who am I as a person, and how am I showing up for this other person in this relationship? For me, for example, my parents have been married. They just celebrated their 48-year anniversary. I'm celebrating my 10-year anniversary. I look at my relationship almost like I look at my parents' relationship, in that they've been together for so long that I've seen them stick it through thick and thin. So my mentality is, whatever I'm going through in my relationship, I have to stick it out thick and thin. Maybe that's right, maybe it's not, but that's my influence on my relationship, and that's how I show up for my partner, and that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we have longevity in our relationship. That's the influence that I have. My dad cooked and cleaned and did all kinds of things that were not gender stereotyped. I cook and clean and do all things that are not gender stereotyped. So that was my influence, and that's how I show up my partnership. And I didn't realize that until recently, how much of an influence my parents were in my relationship. So I just want to share that with y'all, and get an idea of who has influenced you, and how do you show up in your partnership. Omari, how about you?
Yeah, so that was interesting. My how I show up in relationships, I think it's been a little bit more challenging for me, because the relationship my mom and my dad had was pretty toxic. It wasn't the best at all. But what they did do is make sure that they were both present in my life, right? So I would see my dad every weekend. You know, I lived with my mother. And they never really talked about each other too much. So the relationships that I saw were the ones that, you know, my mother would have with men, which wasn't too many, and the relationships that my brother would have with his girlfriends, and of course, and eventually his wife. But, you know, in my kind of formative years, you know, those were, I don't know if it would be the best role model, but you know, he tried his best. You know, he was learning on the fly as well. Yeah. You know, so for me, like I really learned that I need to grow. You know, and I need to come. I don't want to say come correct, because I was trying my best. I always tried my best, but I needed to grow and really understand what a relationship entailed and all the facets of it, and that's what I did not know. You know, so as we get older, as we learn ourselves, as we learn how to negotiate space with other people, how to love other people, how to, you know, agree to disagree with other people, you know, I think it's starting to get better. I hope. You know, I don't know what will happen with my next partner, but I'm gonna do my best to do to do a great job. And but I do have a lot of understanding and understand patience way more. And that, you know, it is a co-created thing that we both have to enjoy when it all comes down to it.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Let's open it up to our guests, to our family. You know, we really want to know, you guys, you know, who's been an influence on you in your relationships and how you view partnerships. Your parents, your siblings, friends. I think we have a hand up. Rachel. Welcome, Rachel. Good morning.
Blessings. Good morning. So this is a really powerful conversation because the one thing that stands out that you said is thick and thin. And in my head, I'm like, what does that entail? Because there's been plenty of times in conversations where I'm like, I don't know if I'm built for marriage because this thick and thin thing is like, there's a fine line, right? Like, what is that? Does that mean that infidelity is okay? Does that mean, because I've seen people that are married and went through certain situations that I would have tapped out of a long time ago. And I'm like, they have established so much, which is beautiful. However, do I have the potential to deal with the thick and thin part? I don't know, because it's almost like, am I allowing abuse and untoxic and toxic behaviors to happen within my life in order to get to the thick part?
I get
You know what I
you're
mean?
saying.
So
Yeah. So
yeah.
thank you for sharing that,
Go ahead, I'm
Rachel.
sorry.
No. I was saying thank you for sharing that. I think what you bring up is important because it's subjective. It's subjective. And I think it goes back to the question, which is, who influenced you, Rachel? How did you view relationships? Because at the end of the day, only you can determine what thick and thin is, right? So who
I think
influenced
for
you?
me, what happened was my mom married 5 times. I've never been married, but I had 5 relationships. So, you know, I guess it goes hands in hands. I wanted the marriage and the commitment. However, I didn't want to be put in certain situations I couldn't get out of easily, which my mother had a little bit more difficulty doing because she was married. So, yeah. So she definitely influenced some of my things where she would commit fully, marry, however, then disconnect easily. And I'm like, if I'm getting married, I'm all in. Like, I want to know, like, somebody asked me at one point in my life, will you marry me? I said, until you marry you and I marry me, we can't get married.
Which is another good point, right?
Definitely.
Which is another good point. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Rachel. Thank you. Yeah, what do you think about that, Omari? Until you marry you, I can't marry.
No, that's a fact. You know, you have to learn. You have to learn yourself. You know, that's what I said earlier. You have to know who you are, what you bring to the table. Some people, you know, it's we have to know what we like, what we don't like, what we can tolerate, what we can. You know, but when it all comes down to it, like, you know, it's an interesting point because we have to really figure out, like, you know, what's the goal, you know, and like, I think that people get into relationships sometimes and, you know, don't know what the goal is. You know, it's like, you know, it's fun. And then it's like, oh, snap, it's already been 1.5 years. What are we doing? You know?
Yeah.
And no, you can go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you know, to your point earlier, though, about knowing yourself, we evolve as people. And I think that's another challenge that we face in relationship, is that there's growth, and growth doesn't necessarily happen at the same time with your partner, which is another interesting issue, right? Because you might be growing as a person and your partner's not growing. And I see that a lot in relationships where somebody, especially like when it comes to careers, if somebody's advancing in their career and the partner isn't, money than the partner, you know, as we evolve as people, it can cause rifts. And if you don't know self, even though self is evolving, I guess, you know, it just becomes complicated. But let's talk to some more folks. Adam, you there, Adam?
I think 1 second. There was a hand raised. Teresa has her hand up, and then if Adam wants to jump in, he can definitely jump in, because he may be the only brother other than the 2 of you in the space.
Definitely need to talk to Adam in a second.
Yes, indeed. Teresa, you ready, love?
Yes, peace and blessing and good morning, brothers and family. I love this conversation because my parents, like they was together for like 60 something years, but it looked crazy as hell to me. Cause I'm like, I remember when they were younger, they were very, very loving. By the end of their marriage, they were like fighting, not really fighting, but they was always arguing, like my father used to tease my mother. And one day I was like, well, damn it, he been teasing you for like 40 years. Like, why you just can't ignore his ass, and just say that? Or like, shut up, nigga, shut up, stupid ass up, and vice versa. You don't tell my mother to shut up. I literally just told this one day. I was like, shut up right now on here and shit. Cause I was just so aggravated with them fussing. But I agree with you is that you really you need to know yourself good before I think now, I didn't know that then, but you need to know yourself. You need to know what you don't like. You need to know, like, am I like, to me, it's a commitment, but sometimes I don't understand that commitment. I'm like, Rachel, it's like, what am I supposed to be committed to? And so for a long time, I did not want to, I didn't think I could be married because I know some stuff I seen, I would have been left a long time ago. So, but I realized, a friend of mine, she said, well, Teresa, but you can't base your relationship based on your parents. You got to let it be based on what you want. And so I'm learning now a lot more what I want. So, I don't know if I'm ready for marriage. I would like to be married, but I don't know if I'm ready yet because I still feel like I need to work on me some more and just, love on myself. So I won't be, like overextending myself, in relationships. And thank you for having this conversation. I'm complete.
Thank you,
Thank
Teresa.
you. Thank you, Teresa.
Righty. So we have some comments in the chat. And I also know if Adam is willing, that you called his name earlier to share. So Zakia, my parents' relationship was not great. My grandparents were more my standard. Maternal grandparents were symbiotic. Paternal grandparents were kind of an opposites attract dynamic. My husband had nothing to model, and it may be a huge part of why we didn't work. And I'll say really quickly, you might have been also the huge, because sometimes the model locks you in. So it could be the, what words that I want to, inflexibility, because it's like, this is how it's supposed to go. It's not always having a model that guarantees, a good model that guarantees that you'll be able to be flexible and what do you call it? Malleable in a relationship. Omena said, I legit had a heart to heart with my son's father, who were coming together to strengthen the friction in our communication and behavioral reactions towards each other. I definitely know that we both trigger each other's trauma. For me, it's my daddy emotional abandonment issues. Catherine, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Shanice, good morning, everyone. I dated myself before I started dating my husband. I took a chance on me and my happiness without involving another human being. And then Omena comes back. My parents definitely had a dysfunctional relationship, but as small children, we didn't fully recognize the patterns of dysfunction. My dad, when angry at my mom, would ignore her or dismiss her emotions by walking away or leaving the house. So I'm going to pause because there are other comments, but I know there's a lot here for y'all to respond to.
Yeah. So I just want to say quickly, I am a huge, huge, huge therapy advocate. I think we all as humans just go through our ups and downs as people, which influence who we are and influence how we show up for other people. And I would just, first of all, thank you all for sharing those comments. But I would just urge everybody to think about, especially in our community, about getting a therapist, whether you're in a relationship or not. It helps with self-love and self-care, and it definitely helps in a relationship. And don't wait until it gets bad in the relationship to go. I would say go when it's good, because then you still, you can still learn and grow from a third party being able to help you talk things through and digest emotion. So I just wanted to say that really quick. But Omar, do you have any thoughts on the comment?
No, therapists, they're amazing. The right therapist is amazing.
The right therapist, yeah.
The right therapist is amazing. If you don't find or not comfortable with one, find another one. Like you're not married to them. And they're there to provide a service. But as you said, I think it's very important that you go early and go often, because once the relationship is kind of broke, it's therapists. They're not there to fix it. It's more of, or they could be just the ones to, tell both people to throw in the towel. But if that's not what you're really going there for, you gotta, make sure that you do it at a point when, things are still malleable and able to, be formed. But just for me, for relationships, I think I always bring this up, with me and Shamani, we did go to therapy. It was a huge help, but I think a even bigger thing for us was being able to co-create together. And the fact that we had our business and that we, were business partners as well as, relationship and lovers, it really helped in the overall relationship because we were both growing towards something that was, we both growing to trying to build and create something that was for us and by us. And we were going through the ups and downs in that, and those bonds of, actually building a business, it made our personal bond stronger, so you got to figure out ways to, if you're going to be with this person, if you're going to be in a relationship, you really have to, fully invest in it and do all the things, not, just sleep in the same house, in the same bed. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you. So let's go to Adam and then we'll go to Sakia. She has her hand up. So Adam, good morning, brother. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. I hope you are.
Thank you. I am. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
So this conversation is about it's about my mom and dad relationship, right?
No. We're just talking about partnerships, and I was just mentioning our parents because usually our parents have a big influence on how we show up in relationships. So I was, we were just asking, how do you feel about partnerships and who has kind of influenced you and how you show up to be a partner in a relationship?
Wow. Partnership is very, very important because it builds communities at the end of the day. It builds, value systems and whatnot, so we can, pass down to the generation that's coming up under us. The person that have influenced me when it comes to partnership, I might have to say my aunties.
Mm-hmm.
My aunties more so than my mom and my father.
Okay. How so?
Because my auntie who lives in New York City in Queens, her name is Auntie Florence. I want to shout her out. She will always tell me, never be in a hurry to, get into a relationship if you're not, doing the work or if you're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And she also used to tell me, if you can't, find a woman that doesn't, appreciate your values, then don't even sweat it. Just go wherever you're appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm at my point. And personally, I just want to say that I'm currently transitioning into the non-monogamy relationship dynamic. And the reason that I've transitioned to that is because of what has happened with monogamy for the last 4 decades, especially within our community. I mean, just the whole image of it and the buffoonery as far as how people cope with infidelity, breakup, and rejection. And the one thing that I don't like about monogamy nowadays is the whole ideology on, if I can't have this person, then nobody else can. So consequently, some people resort to violence. Some people, resort to, destroying other people's stuff. And I just read an article this morning about how a woman lost custody towards her children, toward her father. And when she lost custody, she started, abusing her own child to the point where one of them passed away in New Orleans. So it's just so that whole ideology of, if I can't have this person, then nobody else can, is really, destroying our community. And I just want to, point that out.
Awesome. Thank you for that perspective, Adam.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Shout out to the aunties out there too, spreading love and knowledge. You bring up a good point, Adam. I think, monogamy isn't for everybody. There are people that are in multiple relationships, I suppose. I think we're moving towards, you know, when you think about marriage, I saw this post the other day, it was like, it used to be until death do us part, and now it's until our love is gone. You know, it's like, it used to be one thing, and now we're in a different space. Who knows, you know, if monogamy is not for everybody, it's not. And that's for you to decide at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I just want
Yes.
I just want to add, Andre, that I was conditioned to believe that monogamy was the only relationship that was for everybody. And when people talk about, you know, other relationships like open relationships, people, you know, get the cold shoulders, or they become ignorant of it. So I just want to say that society has done us a disservice, because if society would have taught us about relationship dynamics and how they're structured, then I don't think we will have the problems that we're having today.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting, Adam. And I thank you for bringing that up, because
You're welcome.
really, when you think about it, we are transitioning as a society in a lot of different ways, and how we identify as people, how we show up. And so I think that's another dynamic, just like our identities, that need to be examined, because if it doesn't work for everybody, then we should find the things that do work.
Definitely. Never be afraid to explore. Most definitely.
And also never be afraid to stand up, because like you said, Adam, when you decide to do something that's not traditional, you will get feedback, you will get backlash. You know, that's how it works when you decide to branch off on your own. So, you know, if you're going to say you're in a polygamous relationship, you got to be prepared to defend that, because people are going to be like, what are you talking? We had monogamy now for hundreds of years. What do you mean polygamy? Like, the Mormons do that, and that's about it. But you know, let's go to Zakia. She has her hand up. Good morning.
Yes, and then I'll definitely read some of the comments in the chat. So Zakia, I'm not sure if your share is about what I was talking about earlier about structures or models for relationship or something else, but the floor is yours, my love.
Thank you, beloved. Yes, I'm basically just speaking to my comment. So for me, what I learned from the two very different relationships that my maternal grandparents and my paternal grandparents had was that they didn't quit as soon as things looked a little shaky, or as soon as there was trouble. They worked it out. In their cases, they worked it out and they stayed together. I also saw many relationships where they tried to work it out and ultimately they didn't stay together. What the difference between me, we try to work it out before we just drop it. And my husband for him, disappearing was his answer to everything. And ultimately that's what he did. He left us, and it was years before we saw him. So, and then it wasn't for us to try and work things out. It was just a whole nother conversation. But yeah, so it wasn't that I expected that we were going to stay together forever. I hoped that we would. But what I did expect is that if we had challenges, we would try to work them out before we walked away.
Yeah.
And that's not. We weren't on the same page with regard to that. So that's why we would.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing that, Zakia. I mean, that's deep, and you know, we don't have control over other people's actions, just our own. To your point of your grandparents, which is a beautiful model to have. I think also that generation was just different. You know, that generation was built differently. They went through a lot of different things, and I feel like our grandparents' generation, they stayed together for much longer periods of time than we do nowadays. So, what do you think, Omari?
I feel like, you know, there's certain relationships, you know, and I'm not saying this is necessarily yours, Teresa, but there's certain relationships that just, you know, it's better off, you know, not being together. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
But yeah, so like I was saying, yeah, sometimes it's better off, that you part ways when you do in order to be able to, either come back stronger together or to, start a new chapter. Shamani always brought up the fact that, her parents weren't necessarily the best together, and that, for her growth, for the kids' growth, even for their growth, it was important that, they tried it at another time, and it wasn't always good to kind of force feed relationship, but of course it's a tough pill to swallow and something to process, when you're going through, because of the fact that, your expectations aren't necessarily always end up being the results that you get. But, when it all comes down to it, everything happens for a reason, right? And when sometimes things don't happen the way you see them, it's not necessarily because you did anything wrong, or the next person did anything wrong. It wasn't working. It wasn't compatible. It was time to move on in order to create something new.
I want to chime in here and then read some of the comments. I wanted to share that just because a couple remains together doesn't mean that they're models for negotiation of conflict. I work a lot with couples, married couples, that sometimes someone in the role is definitely wanting to address particular issues, and the other person is conflict avoidant, or there's a lack of emotional intelligence in the dynamic, which makes it very, very hard when you're in a relationship with someone who intellectualizes stuff and you want to share on an emotional level. So trying to, people can learn, like you can build, it's intelligence. Emotional intelligence is an intelligence. So you can build it, you can practice it, you can study it, you can engage it, but it has to be a choice. And intellect, being smart is not enough to be successful in a relationship. You can smart your way out of a freaking relationship. In fact, it could be a barrier, being so smart that you no good in the relationship. So I just wanted to put that out there. And y'all's title is What's My Role? So I'm always going to take it back to what part do you play in a demise of a relationship? Always going to take it back there. I love that y'all put that title in because it makes you look at the role you play, the part that you play. So you have multiple hands up. I'm going to read some of the shares and then go in the direction that y'all want to go. It's 7:32, but we're here to serve. And, whatever you guys want to do is cool with us. All right, so let me go see how far back I can go. Chantel was sharing that sometimes the love is gone, because y'all were talking about relationships and trying to negotiate. I listened to my grandmother and how they stuck it out, meaning the seasoned folks. Oh, that's the thing I was going to say too. And it sounds so sad and unfortunate. These are different times. Like folks, especially Black folks, stay together sometimes out of absolute necessity, not just bills, but we were segregated, discriminated against. There was a lot of racism. So sometimes just being with your family and maintaining that relationship was what you held on to so you could survive life. It's just different times. Now people have so many options. They don't stick and stay. They're like, I'm out. Next. So I just wanted to put that out there. So
real quickly, Shawnee, to that point though, do we qualify what that means though? Is it a bad thing that we're in a space now that, we still encounter racism, it's not lynching, right? But is it a bad thing that we move on now compared to 60, 50 years ago? Do we qualify that?
Yeah, what I want to say about this, once again, just having worked with couples, the frustration tolerance, the lack of patience, the I can drop you today and pick somebody up tomorrow is very low vibrational and toxic. So if you you may jump from one relationship to another, but what you take with you is you everywhere you go, which means you may replicate the very same thing again. Your dishonesty, your gaslighting, your lack of emotional intelligence, your trigger responses because you've been traumatized. So that, I'm not saying stay in a relationship like our grandparents did, but being able to select a partner from a space of substance, and then also being able to navigate conflict successfully and not think that, oh, because the person gets on my nerves, now I drop you. And I've seen that. It's like, whoa, this is really deep. So no, I definitely feel like we're in a space where we don't put the work in. We're not willing.
Okay.
But that's my position. I'll read a couple of more and then y'all can decide who you want to hear from, because you have 3 hands up.
Yep.
Aaliyah said, outside of polygamy, what societies have been successful with non-monogamous relationship? Like, how would that work? And then someone else said she also said, that's my question. What else is there or has there been in the past, I guess, around the structure of a partnership?
Yeah.
And then Catherine said, the divine will guide us. Of this, I am certain. Shanice said, my grandmother started to reveal things later in her life. Our grandparents' generation was silent. They stayed with each other because they were strong. They were stronger together because of the societal injustices happening. So she's just echoing that had issues, a lot of issues, but they stayed. And lastly, Omena said to Aaliyah, I definitely lean towards your sentiment around the actual sustainability of polygamy on a whole in modern times. And then there's also polyamory, being polyandrous. There's different levels to relationships these days. It's always been, but now it's more spoken about and popular, and in some cases acceptable. All right, so baby is up. Yeah. All right, Omari, what do y'all want to do? Hey, handsome. You want to hear from folks? You want to respond to the chat?
Yes, because again, we signed up for a half-hour session. I want to make sure that we're mindful of people's time, and I know that we do have the capabilities of moving
Beyond.
Beyond, yeah. So I would like to get a couple hands and then start, wrapping up. I know Dre's got, his vacation vibes going too.
Right.
So we want to make sure we honor everybody.
Yeah.
This is energizing me, so I'm a hold on to this as much as I can.
All right. I love how y'all are working your relationship and playing your roles. It's so cool. Rachel has her hands up.
Rachel, Veronica, and Theodora.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking about is the accountability part, right? And as far as where I was at in my life when I chose my relationships, I was the ultimate conformer. So when you conform to a certain way of life or being that truly doesn't sit well with your spirit, eventually it'll take you to a point where you got to go, and now it's toxic. So I had to really sit with myself and say, if I don't like some cigarette smoke, right? Just because this person is bringing certain things to a table doesn't, or, we laugh together, your personality, certain things, you're working, but you smoke cigarettes. Eventually that's one of my pet peeves. Eventually I'm going to start saying, oh, you're smoking, you smell like cigarettes, and it's going to become a nagging situation versus something I accepted from the beginning, whether it was a toxic relationship from the door. I seen those red flags. I conformed to them. I accepted them. And then I complained about them after the fact. And that's what then led me to say that I was in an abusive relationship. But this is something that I also contributed to. And I'm complete. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Rachel, because I think oftentimes that conformity might be our downfall, when we know that we don't like something or don't want something, yet we still move forward, that thing oftentimes doesn't go away, that we have to deal with and grow with. So that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
It is. And so in my mind too, I'm thinking though, this relationship needs to be co-created, right? So if there are things that, and when you don't ever want to go into a relationship thinking, I don't like this about the person, and I'm gonna change it for them. I'm gonna make them, because it doesn't necessarily work that way. Yeah. But at the same time, there are certain things in my relationship that I had to let go, or I had to change, or I had to shift in order for the relationship to work. So it just depended on how badly I wanted it, And I feel like that, to Shawnee's point, a lot of times we want to sit in these places, and but once things don't work out our way, we want to leave without really communicating or figuring out, or even having the conversation of what the shift is, what it looks like, and how do we do it. So, and to your point, that's why it's so important to have a therapist or at least the third party to be able to have those conversations, because those are conversations that we don't necessarily always want to have in relationships because they're tough. When you ask somebody to change who they are, like it's triggering,
And also, lastly, I would just add, I think to a point earlier, is knowing thyself, knowing for yourself what you like and what you don't like, being in love with yourself and knowing what you will take and what you won't take is important prior to entering the relationship, because then, there's some things right away that you're not going to put up with instead of dragging the relationship along and then trying to change yourself or the other person. So.
Awesome. So we have two more. I believe Veronica was next and then Theodora. So Veronica, we ready for you, my love?
Good morning. As I reflect, I was thinking about my parents because, you started off with us evaluating. And so my parents were married for 45 years before they divorced with 8 children. And my father immediately got into a relationship with somebody he was already in a relationship with. Even though he was faithfully at home, he never slept out. He was the best father, and we thought he was the best husband. And when we got into that new relationship, the roles were reversed. I never saw my father wash a dish, serve a tray, cook a meal. He did all of that in his new relationship.
Wow.
And then here I am. My husband passed away in November, and we were together for 46 years. So I see myself, I now, as I evaluate it, I see that I was modeling some of my parents' behavior. And why I could say that is my mother got married and my father was 19, my mother was 15 when she got married. And she had 8 children. And she did all the things necessary to make a marriage look great, but it wasn't great. So here we're thinking this is a wonderful marriage. My father's home every night, teaching us how to drive, doing all this stuff, going to work every day. And he's really out there having affairs because it looked good. And so then here I am in this marriage that to all people concerned, it looked good. He was home every night. I cooked dinner every day. People loved to be at our house. My husband was very social. But at the end of our marriage, he never spoke to me. But nobody knew it but the two of us. So here you stay in relationships because of your children, because of society, and we don't try to fix it because all we did was model the people that we thought had really good relationships, and they really didn't. We spent a lot of time modeling, and we're modeling what? Because nobody has the right formula. Like I don't regret staying in my marriage for 46 years because what happened is I helped a lot of young people that came through our house. My children lived here, and they saw stability. But they have to take it now the next step and see how counseling and as Shawnee says, self-growth and all those other things have to keep being should have been added into the 46 years. And if they're not added into the 46 years, it's just 46 years of void.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Monica.
Thank you. Okay.
Time, the concept of time doesn't necessarily mean that we are growing as people, we're growing in our relationship. You could just stay in the same relationship doing the same things on repeat and time just goes by and you don't grow as a person. That's a super powerful story, Veronica. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I'm kind of speechless with that one because that's a lot. That's a lot.
It really is. It's it's a final, like you said, time is it doesn't necessarily equate to growth. But like Veronica said, like it's also important to have the model, right? Or at least to show, like, because like for me, like growing up, I thankfully everybody, all the males in my friend circles had their mother and father in the house, and from the outside looking in, the relationships looked strong, so, but having the opportunity to see that, because as it's just a Black community, we don't see the mother and father in the household, as often as we need to, so having that model and sacrificing for others, is super important. Of course, you don't want to sacrifice your happiness, but at the same time, I'm glad that somebody or people, a community was able to, gain value from something that wasn't necessarily what you felt like it should have been, because it still does add value and fortify the people around you.
That is a great point. That is a great point. Theodora, welcome.
Good morning.
Good
The only
morning.
thing I had wanted to say is 60, 70 years ago, when our parents were together, it was very much of a patriarch, and the females didn't really have the economic wherewithal to be able to be out, a lot of them, on their own. And so they did stay in the marriage. And a lot of the marriages were very stable, but the others were, they weren't.
Mhm, mhm.
Some of them were abusive. I was married at a time when I thought it would be a great marriage. It lasted about 3 years. I got married at 18, but it was an abusive relationship, so I got out.
Mm, mm.
So, but economic issues years ago was one of the reasons why I stayed. And both the male and the females, not only males, did whatever to make themselves happy, but still stayed in the marriage.
Yeah. Who influenced you on your relationship, Theodora?
My mom and my dad. My dad died when I was 10, but up until that time, they kind of took us everywhere they went. We had a great life. And even after my dad passed, my mom raised us. It was myself and my 2 brothers. So I guess it would be my mom and my dad. That's what I thought a marriage should be, but that's not what I got.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Again, I think it comes down to a self-evaluation. It's we're learning and growing as people constantly. And I think it's so important to know who we are prior to getting into a relationship, to know what we bring to that relationship and what we expect. And I think that's one of the things maybe we haven't talked about really just yet, is expectations. What do you expect in a partner? Do you have expectations in a partner, and are they realistic? I think there are times in the past where I just kind of jumped in a relationship not expecting much, but expecting me to do what was required, what society says I should do, which is be a baller and do this and flashy and all kinds of stuff that I thought that I should be doing, because our parents do raise us, but we can't forget the fact that society is also raising us. Instagram and TV and all these things nowadays are definitely having an influence, subconsciously or consciously. So it's something to think about.
And Theodora brought up a good point just about our parents kind of growing up and being raised in more of a patriarchal system, where nowadays, and to your point of the whole topic, is like in my mind, at least, the roles have been reversed, in terms of, women just taking so much more of a forefront in the dynamic of the society, right? Like making more money, having more degrees, starting more businesses, and it is, and to that point, like, our, in the relationships in our generation, where our fathers were absent, it had a lot to do with, the drug epidemic, the AIDS epidemic, the prison system, our fathers just going away and not being around.
Yeah.
And, and as we get older, in the generation after us, as they get older as well, we want to change, that dynamic, and that, I think that's why a lot of, relationships now, at least in the Black community, where fathers are just more involved with their children and more involved in their relationship than any other race. I think that's a direct connection. But I would bring all of these things up, to say that with that said, we have an understanding that times are changing, the roles are changing, and to your point, what do we want, or how do we feel it looks like? Because a lot of us have been raised by our mothers, so we have a little bit of I don't want to say a better understanding, but we've seen what maternal love looks like, right?
Mhm.
And we transition that into our relationships. So how does that, like I said, so to come back to your point, like how does that, influence our relationships and the expectations of what they are?
That's interesting. That's definitely an interesting thing to think about. Do we have anything else in the chat, Shawnee, that we wanted to?
Yeah, we can read some of the chat comments because folks are very engaged in this conversation, and thank y'all for being the catalyst for so much robust conversation.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of acknowledgement for Veronica's share, that level of vulnerability, about the relationship that she was in. I'm doing a lot of teaching these days about currency, different types of currency other than fiat money. And time is one of my biggest, most powerful currencies. And especially as an older woman, I'll be 54 in October. I'm like, I am not spending my time, and I think of the spending, my currency, pretending in relationships, being inauthentic, putting up with things that don't align with how I am and who I am. And this may be controversial, but I'm done investing. My role is not to be in a relationship anymore with someone who's not able to care for me on a deep, deep level. And I don't mean just emotionally, I mean also having the financial ability to care for me. My next relationship, I'm going to be spoiled. I declared that. But I can spoil myself. I can take myself out, but it's just like, I missed that because I was so vested in fixing the illusion of love, my role in those relationships. Even though I'm a powerful person, I wasn't being accountable and responsible for how I was showing up in the relationships that I've had. So I'm so appreciative to you both for what you've shared. So folks are talking about, with regard to time, Zakia says we can still be in the same position 5 years, 10 years later in our lives and in relationships. Like time is just frozen and stagnant. Let's see. Folks are saying that they're learning so much being in this space because Kenyoko was sharing about what polygamy actually is and the misconceptions. She provided definitions. She has a lot of knowledge in reference to the different types of relationships that we are ignorant to because we've been mistaught in this society. So you can go back and read what she said about that. Kaisha, once again, acknowledged the honest share from Veronica. Let me see. And then Terry shared with Adam that there are so many non-monogamous relationships going on today, even in marriages. Absolutely.
Definitely.
And Kenyoko was just being acknowledged for dropping the gems. Tameen said, I'm thinking about how we can create, maintain, and renegotiate emotional agreements as a core investment in our partnerships over time to live together 46 years that are satisfying for both people. Let's see. Oh, I put in the chat, there is a new term over the last several years regarding relationships that are built on and sustained on trauma. It's called trauma bond. I think our ancestors were inextricably tied by their traumatic experiences with enslavement, racism, and oppression. And trauma bonds, I see them, like I said, in my work, and they're being talked about a lot. It's like this person fulfills on some traumatic loop that I'm in. And so I'm in that relationship. It could be domestic violence. It could be the person cheating all the time, lying all the time, gaslighting you, but you grew up in that. And so y'all are tied through that bond, and they have whatever that projected onto you, and it just loops out over and over again. Zakia, speaking from personal experience, Shawnee, I've been frozen in place for decades, literally. Starting to move feels like it's taking forever. I have to remind myself that I was stationary for a long time. Yeah, so folks are just keeping it real and sharing in this space about what their experience. So Kinyofu said, wow, to me, that's powerful. You're declaring being spoiled in your next relationship. And you know, when I think about it, Omari and Andre, I wasn't spoiled as a child. I didn't get a lot of things that I wanted. It was making me so sad. And it taught me to just accept whatever. Samiko says, Shamani, thank you. Shawnee, I said Shamani, Lord. Shawnee, thank you again for your great insight. And Adam said, exactly to me, that's why I choose my woman wisely. All right, Adam. And put myself first in the process. All right. And Angela also dropped gems on non-monogamy also. So save this chat, y'all, if you can. You know, Mari and Andre have started something. We need a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
For real. You know, just based off of what you said, Shawnee, it's once you start thinking about the things that you grow up with, wanting for, or yearning for, or not experiencing, or experiencing, this really does lend itself to what you expect in a relationship and how you show up in a relationship. And sometimes we have no idea some of those things that are just sitting subconsciously in our spirit that we might yearn for, but don't even know consciously that's what we really want in a relationship, or that's what we need now. And that also goes to the point of evolving as a human, evolving as a person. Maybe you didn't need that years ago, but you need that now, you know, and being conscious and aware of that is what's going to make you happy and successful, you know, in your relationship. So I just wanted to recognize that, you know, it takes work to understand who we are as people, and it takes work to understand what we need and the things we've gone through. Trauma bonding is so prevalent, and we just got the term for it, but that's been around forever, you know, people just connecting with others based off the traumas that they've experienced. So you brought up some really good points. Thank you.
Definitely. And to your point, it's not like people have on, you know, their foreheads all the things that they've been through and all the, you know, great qualities that you're looking for or not. You know, so you have to go through that experience, right? If you're really looking to co-create something and connect with people. But to your point, Andre, like you have to definitely know yourself and know what you're looking for. For me, I feel like it's a tough thing though, because you still have to learn the other person as well, right? And figure out how you all kind of fit and if the puzzle works, right? And if you all are both willing to, you know, sacrifice and, you know, not yourself per se, but sacrifice for the co-creation of this relationship. You know,
I feel you. I feel you. There's one more important point I wanted to make. And my wife and I recently did this. There's a woman named Brene Brown. I'm sure a lot of people know who she is. She has a show on HBO called Atlas of the Heart. And Atlas of the Heart is a show that she goes in and really talks about some of the emotions that we feel, but don't necessarily know how to name. And the show is super important because a lot of the emotions that we feel, we're not able to verbalize what they actually are, but we know that we feel them. And so I would really, really, really strongly suggest everybody in this room right now, Atlas of the Heart, Brene Brown. It's on HBO. It's like a 4 or 5 part series. And it really goes into the emotions that we feel as people and being able to explain in detail what really those emotions are. And I feel like once we're able to name the emotions that we have, we're able to better communicate how we feel and what our expectations are, and it just makes everything better. So I would definitely suggest everybody check that out if they can.
Yes, Atlas from the Heart. If you could, Andre, drop it in the chat,
Sure.
so that folks can know the title and where to find it, like what network or where it's positioned.
Nilfu and I put it in there too.
Oh, you did? Okay, awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. Beautiful. So final remarks, brothers, things that you want to impart before we close out?
You want to talk about the app a little, Dre?
Yeah, sure. So, Omari and I right now, we're working on an app. I feel like this will be a significant app. The app is really for partners of birthing people. This app is meant to create a community for birthing people to go, especially birthing people of color, Black people specifically, because of our maternal mortality rates. This app we're looking to co-create will be a space for people of color to connect with doulas, connect with midwives, also connect with other people that are going through their pregnancy process. What we found is that a lot of partners, a lot of Black men are showing up, not really knowing what's going on, not really going to the OB appointments, not asking questions. I think the app that we're trying to create will make it easier for partners to show up, to know what questions to ask, to know what's going on during what trimester, and really, more importantly, to start tracking some of the things that they are experiencing with their partner. And for example, if let's say I have the app and I see that my partner is having a headache for multiple days, I can start tracking that in the app. And over 3 or 4 days, they could see, look, a headache for 3 or 4 days could mean preeclampsia. Let's escalate the situation if my birthing partner is not. So, I'm working with an ideation consultant right now, me and Omari and a guy named Swale, all Black people, FYI. And we're really trying to create something that makes it easier for us to communicate with each other, to track pain, to track any issues during the pregnancy, and also to help to escalate. So that's, we're really working on that. And I think it'll take time, it'll take investment, but I think that this is important. And one way that we can show up as partners is being there, knowing what's going on, asking questions, and being much more involved than we were in the past, because our maternal mortality rates are inexplicably high. It makes no sense. And we can't wait on the system to fix itself to help us. We have to create the systematic solution. And this is at least one way that we can help ourselves. So that's the app. There'll be more information coming. And as we go through the process, we'll keep you guys in the loop so that, we can get your support, your love, your resources, anything that can help us create what we need to create.
But to even just to speak to the title of today's show talk back, whatever you want to call it, it is though too, it is this change of role expectation, right? And the fact that, we as Black men, as men in general, need to show up in a different way now in order to support and in order to ensure that, our partners are getting the care, getting the things that they need. And I think that this app is a great way to be able to do that and be able to provide a space where, men specifically can now have a better understanding of the gestation process, delivery, and then also postpartum piece to it, and have some supports, while doing it in a very simple, easily accessible way. So we're really excited about this. It's going to be dope. It is dope, and it is one of those things that, like, Dre said, it is one of those things in which, will provide help for everybody, and help fortifying the family unit in itself. So again, tangible, something that we know that will help and create our roles and identify what our roles are a little bit better than they have been in the past.
So with that being said, I guess we need to have another one of these, Omari. I thoroughly enjoy these conversations.
Yeah. I have a date for y'all, but we'll talk about it in the debrief. I'm not playing. I'm like, come back.
You're already booked. Okay.
Yes. And I'm not going to say that you're booked, because I know you have to choose the date powerfully. You don't want to be asking you to do something that's a conflict for your life and create stress. But we'll talk about it in the debrief, because we definitely want you to come back. This is such a powerful offering. So let us close out. And you see in the chat, people are like, do come back.
Yes.
See the part 2, part 3, part 4.
Sure.
We're gonna have y'all here every day for like a month straight. Let's see, that's my selfish desire, y'all. Remember, I'm working on being spoiled. That would be another manifestation.
There we go.
All right, so here we are. Omari, this is your contact information. Anything you want to say to the community about being in touch with you?
Yeah, no, please stay in touch. Please stay engaged. Thank y'all for everything that y'all do for me and for my family. I really do appreciate y'all and love y'all. And, it's exciting times, so follow the journey, because we're doing these things on a more of a public forum, and it's really only because of y'all and this family and this community. So, hit me up. I'm here.
Yep. Follow. He has his Instagram, Facebook information, and then ways to be in touch directly. So y'all be in communication. All right, and Andre, share.
Yeah, so I'm up early on vacation time because of you guys. I think these conversations are healing. They help me learn, and I hope they help you learn. Definitely shoot me an email. We're working hard on this app behind the scenes. So if anybody has any ideas or thoughts, please feel free to reach out. And either way, we'll be back. There's so much to talk about. I think times are changing, times are evolving, and it's important that we all come together and talk about it as a community. This is energy for me. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. All right, here we go. So love offerings on the Mondays and Wednesdays, which are usually not this lengthy, but we had such a good time. We stayed later in the space. We don't necessarily go into the offerings to speakers, but it's up to you. You have the freedom to share. Just make sure that you put today's session number on it, 649, if you choose to share love offerings with Omari and Andre directly. And family, just inviting you to consider that 5 days a week, I don't know, what is that, Omari's the math person. I always go to him for my math, 25, 27, I don't know, times a month, you get access to powerful conversation and content like this, life transforming stuff that helps you to learn, elevate, and ascend, which is our motto in the Woo space. So we're asking you to give back what's so graciously and generously given to you, so that we can continue to maintain this platform and do what we do best, which is share wisdom, empower with one another. We've been doing this for 2.5 years. It's amazing. So please do give monthly. You can set it up or to make it automated, and then it'll come out regularly, and we'll be able to rock and roll. So yeah, let's do that. And Kinyofu, there has been an ask in the chat to save the chat and send. I forgot. And Andre or Omar, you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, because I can't remember. There's a way to save the chat yourself to your device, isn't there? Like individuals can save it for themselves?
I thought so.
Yeah.
You can. I don't know that we have it set up because I don't see it now.
Me too. I see it. If you click the in the chat thread, if you go to the bottom, like almost like you're trying to send a message, there are 3 dots to the right, the far right, and then click it, and it says save chat at the top. I don't know if it's just me because I'm the host, or if everyone can do it. Okay. All right. So save the chat.
Definitely.
Oops.
Oh,
Let me
wait.
go back.
Yeah, let's wait, today's the 10th. So tomorrow, August 11th, we have Creating Your Joy-Driven Life. That'll be facilitated by Valerie Lyons. I think that conversation is going to be great. Being active in creating your own joy is what it's all about. And, this is one of the things we talked about today. Really being active in making yourself happy first before you expect anybody else to do that. So please join us tomorrow for this conversation. I think it'll be great. And from what I hear, Valerie is awesome. So,
Yes, she is. Indeed, she is. Thank you. And once again, as I shared earlier, in this community, we are dedicated to learning, elevating, and ascending. And so if you are new to the space, just came for today, maybe you were invited by Omari or Andre or somebody else in the community, welcome, welcome, welcome. In this space, we like to say, we don't believe in hit it and quit it. We want you to keep coming back so that you can keep evolving and growing with us. And your contribution to the conversation might transform somebody's life. Like it happens all the time in the wake up space, new insights, new sharing, new learning, and folks, apply it to their everyday lives, and then they're able to manifest joy and opportunity and possibility and healing on many different levels. So please come back. And you're already a part of the tribe because you came today. Let's make it consistent so that you can keep growing with us and learning. So the schedule, for those who are new and for those of you who are seasoned, just a reminder, we're here Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday from 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. on Monday and Wednesday from 7 to 7:30. But today, because the conversation was so rich, we went longer. So an appetizer turned into a full-blown meal. If you want to get alerts daily, you can type in, just like a phone number, 74121 on your cell phone. And then in the message box, put Woo Nation or type Woo Nation in capitals and then send it. And then you'll be able to be added to our automated texting so you can get reminders every morning to join the space. So we want to definitely have you get the links and whatever you need to keep coming back. If you don't have Woo Swag, or if you do, this is an invitation to purchase more or to purchase for the first time, water bottles, tea or coffee cups, t-shirts, sweatshirts, laptop sleeves, bags, tote bag, journal, mask, and you can have all of it and carry it in your tote bag so you can move through your day powerfully and take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit. So order, and use the link in the chat, whether it's Facebook or Zoom, to purchase. And we want to thank you, family, for being in touch, meaning energetically in conversation with us today. And some of us meet up on the outside because we live in the same areas, or we come from other states and we catch up and meet up. So stay in touch with us, tune in, stay engaged. If you can't be on Zoom, watch us on Facebook. If you can't watch the day of, watch the playback. It's all powerful and it all creates a space of learning, growth, and transformation. So here's all the information that you need to register, to find us on Facebook and different aspects of social media, and then also to reach out and communicate if you need to share information, suggest a facilitator, because we're always open to manifesting more. I was just talking to someone in the space today about facilitating because they're dope and I want to have them in the space. So y'all help us make that happen. So let me take this down and let's do what we know how to do in the wake up space, which is to love on one another. We are masterful at what we do. And one of the things is sharing love. So let's unmute and give Omari and Andre love for what they've shared. So unmute, everybody.
Thank you so
Omari.
much
Thank
for
you,
your
Omari.
gift
Thank you,
today.
Omari.
Thank you for your
Thank
energy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your love.
Okay, let's
Thank
make
you
water
so
everybody.
much. I'm
Thank
so glad that I was
everyone
able
who
For life
shared
and
Love
live.
you.
We're
positivity.
about to add
I
to
love
it.
this
We're about to
room. I
save
love
lives.
Room
Thank you
Network.
for your vulnerability and
I'm
your
Shawnee, I love
courage
my
and
boo
heart.
boo.
Continue doing what you're
And
doing. Thank you
Look, let's
so
go
much.
to the clip.
Stay blessed, stay healthy.
y'all are
Really
phenomenal.
appreciate the new apps. They all bring love
Got
and
more than I
prosperity to those
anticipated.
families that are bringing in new
Being in
life,
this world.
bringing in new birth. We are here for it. We do the part two community, and we are here to
Ooh,
collaborate and
nation, we
bring
all we
that
got,
into
baby.
fruition. We love you.
You too. Blessings to everyone.
Love you, love you, love you, love you, love you, love you.
Love you back.
Thank you.
Great day,
Wow.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Be good
Thank
to
you.
yourself today.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.